taking over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. All right, good to have you with us on C2C on a Misery Monday, but it's not just any Monday. It's a natty Monday. We got the national championship tonight at NRG in H-Town between Michigan and Washington. They're both 14-0 as an added feature tonight. Carver High, tell them what we'll be doing during the natty.
Yes, in fact, during the special coverage tonight for the national championship game, of course, you got the College Football Today crew with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens and Kevin Walsh. They'll be doing the pregame, the entire game. But during halftime, Scotty,
What?
You get a treat because you get the special halftime show here on SportsGrid with us, me and you, during halftime of the Michigan-Washington game tonight. How about that?
Does that mean I can't have two double rums in the first half?
Correct. That is correct. There'll be none of that for you. There'll be nothing for me before the second half kicks off, as we will jump on here during halftime tonight, give those guys a breather for a few minutes as they got a long haul tonight. I think they're on from like 6 to midnight, so we'll step in and give them a little breather during the halftime show, and we'll talk about the first half of this great game that we have coming up tonight in Houston between two undefeated teams, Michigan and Washington. It is going to be a fun one, Scotty. That is for sure. I'm going to give you all the numbers in a moment. But at first, why don't we hear from the coaches for tonight? And we have to start with Jim Harbaugh. Could be the last game that he's ever going to coach at the University of Michigan, depending on who offers him a big enough bag in the NFL. And before we do hear from him, of course, we welcome in our radio affiliates, Rel Coast to Coast on a Monday, Sirius XM 159 and Sports Byline. Great to have everybody with us here today. Here he is, Scotty, Jim Harbaugh, with Michigan getting ready. They are ready for the challenge.
My message to our guys is going to be play as hard as you can, as fast as you can, as long as you can, and don't worry. And just go have at it. It's been a group of guys that I've had to pull them back at times. Have never had to talk them into anything. And I just can't wait. I just can't wait to watch them compete, watch them have at it.
This guy's
that's going to be my overwhelming
really
feeling.
Like, it's so strange.
Let's just go let it rip. And we're going to have to play well. This is a tremendous, tremendous team that we're playing. Just thorough in every way.
It's just going to be, you would think, as kick-ass as it smells leading up to the dinner. I mean, this is Thanksgiving and Christmas balled up into one. The smell, you can just smell it cooking. This game, these two 14-0 monsters with two great teams, two great quarterbacks, two teams that do it all. One of them slings it all night. The other one runs it down your throat. One of them plays sickening defense with a pass rush against a guy that doesn't get sacked, against an offensive line that doesn't give up sacks. They are both notorious OG in so many ways that made them both 14-0. It smells real special. I hope it lives up to it.
I hope it lives up to it as well. Of course, last year we did not get the best national championship game when Georgia pasted TCU in the championship. I don't think we're going to get that tonight. I'm with you. I think we get a very competitive game. On the other side, we have Kalen DeBoer and the Washington Huskies. They've been dogs a lot this year, Scotty. They are not worried at all about being underdogs once again tonight. DeBoer wants the Huskies to finish the job.
But I think, the first thing that I said is just probably the most important, is that there was a job that wasn't done. They've really hung on to that motto here, especially the second half of the season when we've gotten win after win, just referring back to jobs not done. And, I think the team, each win, has celebrated on somewhat of a level because I make sure that they do that because it's really hard to win a college football game. But it's been this really even keel, just kind of mentality, and just, knowing that the work's not done, the job's not done.
I don't think it's hard to win college football games. I think it's hard to win big games. This is everyone's problem in college football. Like, you look at Franklin at Penn State. He can't win big games. Anymore, Ryan Day can't win big games. Jim Harbaugh used to not be able to win big games. Now he wins big games. This guy, DeBoer, he wasn't supposed to beat Oregon once, let alone twice, so he can win big games. Can you win big games? This isn't like playing everybody else in your conference, like Michigan rolling Indiana and everyone else. This is a big-time game with a team across the field you're staring at that's as good as you or better.
They certainly are. Here we go. Michigan and Washington tonight. It's been 4.5 all week long, Scotty, but not anymore as we get a couple of hours to kick. 5.5 is now the number here. This has moved to the total at 55.5. Double nickel and a half for Washington and Michigan with the total tonight.
Most bettors that I know laid the 4.5 with Michigan, and like Morency and et cetera. I'm more on the over. I just think Penix is too dangerous. I think he's lethal. The way he gets rid of the ball, slings it outside, in the slot, screens, over the middle. He can run, even though he's had 2 knee surgeries. He ran last week brilliantly, right? Like in the semi, he came up big, and I just think he's so dangerous. I have a hard time giving that many points to a guy that dangerous. And it went from 4.5 to 5.5. It gets even more dangerous by the minute. All this late money coming in on Michigan. Now you got to win by a touchdown. You got to win by 6. There's no final score with a hook involved. You got to win by 6. Let's stop at all this. Oh, it's only 5.5. You got to win by 6. Have fun with that against a guy that'll throw for 400 yards tonight. This guy is lethal. Remember, this is just me, I never give that many points to a guy that's that good playing quarterback. Okay? You cannot trust any game ever when the quarterback is that good standing on the field. If that guy's in the game, they got a chance to not only backdoor, but to win. I mean, I couldn't even believe what I was watching last week, Mike, when they almost blew that game. That they almost lost to Texas at the end somehow, some way, when they were up 13. Next thing you know, it's 4th, and there's a second left in the game, and they're throwing into the end zone. I couldn't even believe what I was watching. This guy is dangerous. I think Michigan gets it done. I like the over more than any part of that spread.
I am a little nervous about the coach tonight because of how he handled the end of that Texas game. It should never have been that close, but I am not worried about Michael Penix tonight. I think the Huskies win, Scotty, outright. I think you get your over. I think the Washington Huskies. We got the purple on today.
Look at this time.
We got the 25-1.
The
25-1 on the Huskies from before the Pac-12 title game. We're going to cash that tonight. Tonight.
He was giving Morency the finger before.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I don't
favorite.
care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby. The money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
The wife said we're getting the Stanley Cups, and now they got Stanley Cups in West Virginia.
Yep. They're doing $300 million gross a year in sales.
Listen, man, we don't need that much, man.
They're crushing
I'll take
it.
a little piece of the Stanley Cup. I would drink from the Stanley Cup every day. I'll have inscribed on there. We'll get our BVB inscribed.
Yeah.
Stanley Cups.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back,
The irony.
I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Greg, do you agree with the idea that the odds makers are sharing by having the Pinstripes booked as the favorites to win the pennant in the American League?
The average person who doesn't bet on sports, at the Venetian, at Caesars, Mandalay Bay, they've never bet on anything before. They walk into a sports book, they know nothing about sports, but they look at the board, Ben, and they say, Yankees. I know who they are. That sounds like a fun bet.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
We'll look at the Heisman Trophy
The early
race
line.
and what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterbacks,
Ferrall
backup quarterbacks.
coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time
You
decisions.
have no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
In-game live.
Just
Prime
took 'em
time.
yard for a grand slam.
The bottom of the fourth inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports Rage
That was
Late
good betting.
Night.
We waited for 1.5. We got paid.
We did.
information, did like the 2.5. Jumped on
There's
it.
no taking weeks off in golf betting ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, Carver High, you're rolling with Washington outright. You're rocking the Husky tie. And then if they came out retro with like the black and the purple and gold, I mean, you might have something there like you could make money. I mean, they may start selling that stuff, like, auction and stuff. I mean, you know what I mean? You're looking at a lot of money, Rick. So, we got – hold on a second, Rick. I'm going to let Jack be nimble talk to you. Go ahead, Carver High.
Yeah, I just feel like their offensive line has been outstanding this year. They're going to be able to protect Penix. I think that Penix is going to put points on the board. And as much as Michigan scores so much, Gabe was giving the numbers earlier, I don't know if they're going to be able to keep up with Washington if Penix isn't touched all night. So I like Washington, and I think it sails over your number.
All right, Rick Haro is our sports business and legal insider from Harvard, diving on the show from out of bounds. I think that's an illegal play, and the yellow flag has been thrown, 5 yards and a loss of down, but we will inject him into the lineup immediately right now. Mr. Haro.
I would just want to give you – I dialed numbers. I was told to dial numbers. I dialed numbers. And my penalty is – no, nobody cares. Nobody cares. But – What I care about even less is why did you have to put me on, or I had to listen to Carver? I didn't think I have to listen to Carver chirp until tomorrow. It was bad enough last night. It was bad last night, by the way. Let me tell you, with the Dolphins, it was bad being there.
Well, what's even worse is that I got to listen to this guy Carver and this guy Morency all week long as my Steelers have to go to Buffalo to probably bend over on Sunday. Not only that, I got to do a show with Morency at 1 o'clock on Sunday when they kick off, and I got to watch my team play that tough Bills team. So I know how you feel.
Yeah, well, I was sitting up there with the brain trust, and the issue was, do we want to play Buffalo once, then Buffalo again 7 days later, or go up to the Tundra? By the way, Saturday night, the temperature is going to be 7 below the end of the world. Yeah, which is not really good for Tua, right? I mean, he's a Hawaiian kid. So I don't think we would have beaten Buffalo twice. We didn't even beat him once. And first a punt return in the last millennium has to happen when the Dolphins had momentum. I don't even want to talk about it. Why are we talking about it?
So let's talk about this real quick. So they're playing in Kansas City. It's going to be 0 degrees or
Right.
worse. And they have massive problems up front, massive injuries all over the field. Their entire defense is filled with backups. No one is healthy on the entire team. And they're going to play in 0 degrees, sub-zero weather with winds at Arrowhead in front of 80,000 drunks and a good defense and an offense that has been as bad as the Eagles. The Chiefs have done nothing, and yesterday didn't do anything either. Will the Dolphins go there in those conditions and fail?
No. The Dolphins are going to play better than anybody expected. Here's why. Mostert, probably back. Waddle, back. Hunt, back. Offensive line, healthier than a while. That doesn't mean they're healthy. Healthier than a while. Defense, you don't need linebackers. Yeah, I understand we do. The defense getting healthy. Chiefs offense, terrible, as you agree. Dolphin offense, Tyreek Hill is going to catch for about 180 yards, and the Dolphin is going to win. Mark my words here. Don't. By the way, if you get offered points, take them. But the Dolphins may win anyway. How's that
All right,
sound?
here's the question that matters today. With the NFL, the fascists with their money and their coffers wide open, suddenly on Saturday night you got to pay per view to watch the Kansas City-Miami game unless you live in Miami or Kansas City. Anyone else has to sign up for Peacock. There will be no free trial. There will be none of that. You will either give them money or you will not watch the game. So the question is, how long before the NFL makes us pay for every game, including the Super Bowl?
Here's the answer. I live in Miami, so that's the exception. So I could care less about the rest of the country. I get to watch my Dolphins. The real answer, of course, is this is not one of those things that you take lightly. Okay, so remember when Amazon did it, but it was all, as you point out, free trial, free trial, free trial. I will wait for the backlash and see, because this was obviously an NBC game, and NBC decided to then run it on their streaming affiliate, and it turns out to be a game that a lot of people want to watch. You know, whether it's a good game or a bad game, 0 degrees Saturday night, that is always a very significant playoff rating first weekend bonanza. And I understand the backlash, by the way. I really do. Not that I'm going to get it because I'm, again, in the local market, but I do understand that backlash.
But, I mean, no one's going to watch it, and no one's going to want to pay to watch it. And how long before the NFL makes the Super Bowl a pay-per-view experience only? Because if they'll do it now, I'd say the over-under is 5 years.
No, I don't think so, because I think Congress has drawn such a bright line for so many years that the line will exist for the conference championships and for the Super Bowl. Maybe it will intrude into the next weeks of the playoff game. So maybe it goes one round deeper in the playoff. But I'm here to tell you it will not go to the conference championships, and it will definitely not go to the Super Bowl in my lifetime. Now, I may get shot tomorrow, so my lifetime may be short.
So they're already talking about Paris in the summer and that economic impact on who? The French?
Everybody. So, the French. But $4 billion, 4 billion euros of economic impact from tourism, 10 billion of the stimulated economy. And remember, this is not going to have a huge budget for construction like Sochi or Athens or some of the other places, just like LA. These are existing facilities for the most part. So according to all of the economists, this is going to be a very successful Olympics. And I put that down as my number one thing to watch in 2024 for exactly that reason.
Will they put all the Olympics on Peacock and make people pay to watch that, and no one will pay that fee either because no one gives a rat's ass about it to begin with? They don't watch it on regular TV. There's no way they're going to pay a bunch of money to watch, I don't even care what it is, gymnastic or swimming on Peacock.
I can't wait for table tennis in 8-hour delay. That will be the best.
Yeah.
There will be some people around, but not a lot of people. I would agree with that.
How about the USFL and XFL merger into the United Football League? How do you think that's going to go for The Rock?
Well, I think it's a brilliant marketing idea to have an XFL conference and a USFL conference. So all of those people, a small handful, all of the people that had a rooting interest in which league survives, now they root for their team that is left in that 8-team conference or 2 4-team conferences. So, will it survive? Yeah, because there's enough incentive by all of the networks for television purposes. Then you throw in some attendance. We didn't know which league was going to survive 2 years ago. Now we know it's the combination.
So what? UFC 299 and 300 coming around the corner. That's a big deal for them.
Big deal for them. Big deal for Vegas. Everything about Vegas now is smoking, because let's remember my next item for big times in 2024 is the Super Bowl in Vegas as well. So the UFC, WWE, the big time merger, number 300 is the fight series to watch in April.
I can't wait for a 12-team college football playoff. Maybe Penn State will finally be in a game that matters.
Hey, Miami signed that kid from Albany. Did you see? University of Miami signed a Division II quarterback. There you go. Congratulations, man. I can't wait. First opening game, whoever it is, Bethune-Cookman, we're going to be watching. All right, you and I'm inviting you down. We're going to the first game next year because they'll pick on a pigeon. They'll be undefeated.
Miami won't make that 12-team playoff for 20 years. They suck so bad. The clothes I bought from Legends are better than the football program. The basketball school that it is now, there is no football program with that hack-ass Cuban coach of theirs, and you can quote me on that, too. All right, Peacock.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
Right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division favorite.
I don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
The wife said we're getting the Stanley Cups, and now they got Stanley Cups in West Virginia.
Yep. They're doing $300 million gross a year in sales.
Listen, man, we don't need that much, man.
They're crushing
I'll take a little piece of the Stanley Cup. I would drink from the Stanley Cup every day. I'll have inscribed on there. We'll get our BVB inscribed.
Yeah.
Stanley Cups.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back,
the irony.
I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Greg, do you agree with the idea that the odds makers are sharing by having the Pinstripes booked as the favorites to win the pennant in the American League?
The average person who doesn't bet on sports, at the Venetian, at Caesars, Mandalay Bay, they've never bet on anything before. They walk into a sports book, they know nothing about sports, but they look at the board, Ben, and they say, Yankees, I know who they are. That sounds like a fun bet.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
We'll look at the Heisman Trophy
The early line.
and what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at this deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterbacks,
Ferrall
backup quarterbacks.
coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time
I
decisions.
have no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
In-game live.
Just
Prime
took 'em
time.
yard for a grand slam.
The bottom of the fourth inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports Rage
That was
Late
good betting.
Night.
We waited for 1.5. We got paid
We did.
information. Didn't like the 2.5.
jumped on.
There's no taking weeks off in golf betting, ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I am hearing from Adam Kaplan, our NFL insider, that, and he's coming on right now. I'm hearing from him, his sources are telling him that the Steelers are so afraid to play the Bills on Sunday at 1 o'clock that they have actually decided to rescind their invitation to the playoffs, and they have called Doug Peterson, and they're going to let the Jaguars go to Buffalo and play the game instead because the Steelers are so scared of the Bills and the weather and the fans that they just don't want to lose any money or the travel costs, plane, gas, carbon release into the atmosphere. They're scared to death of the Bills, and the Jaguars will be representing them in the game this Sunday.
Unbelievable. How about those Jaguars losing 5 out of 6? After week 12, they got a 2-game lead. They turned their season around. They look good. 5 games over 500. Then they lose 5 out of their final 6, and they're somehow out of the playoffs. And if you would have taken the Texans to not make the playoffs, you would have won very little money. But if you would have taken them to make it, you would have won $500 for $1. Okay, they were 500 to 1 to make the playoffs. What a story. What a choke job by the Jaguars. I can't believe it. That was the stunner. I mean, the Titans, and we'll get into the Titans and Mike Vrabel in a minute here. This is an interesting weekend that we just had, and we're going to have also a great weekend coming up for football.
Well, I mean, just before we talk about all this stuff, what did you think when you saw Lawrence on 3rd and 4th down, those 2 plays?
By the way, he's struggled for a while now. I know he's hurt. I know he came into the game with the right shoulder problem. His accuracy's been off, and there may be. I know Doug Peterson, and one of the reasons why he didn't keep his job in Philly, he didn't want to make coaching changes. But when you have a meltdown like the Jaguars had, the clear favorite coming into the season, we all know that, and they choke like they did, and they have this fall like they did, people are going to question what's wrong with Trevor Lawrence. He had a regression this season, not a major one, but he was not as good as last season. What's happened to the play calling? What happened to the defense? We don't talk a lot about the Jaguars, but we should. This has been a total choke. How do you lose to the Titans who have nothing to play for? That's an absolute embarrassment.
Yeah, and I thank them up and down because I enjoyed every minute of it, and especially after Saturday when I watched the Steelers and that Johnson 71-yard torture up the middle for a tutty to win the game in the driving rain in Baltimore, and then to see the Jags puke all over their baby bib and lose to the Titans. It was beautiful. They remind me of your Eagles who have fallen on their face and lost 5 of 6. Let's go backwards today and start with what matters. No one cares about anything other than in Philly, who to blame. They're blaming Sirianni. They're blaming Patricia. They're blaming their mother. They've lost 5 of 6. And I know they killed Tampa earlier this year, but that team is a long way ago. Like, I don't even remember that team. This team playing right now, they got their hands full Monday night.
Scott, not only has this team lost 5 out of 6, look at who they've lost to. The Cardinals, their defense was atrocious. They lost to the Seahawks, a team that they're better than. They were favored against on the road. And then yesterday, a team that, by the way, the Giants had a lot of coaching changes today. You can't lose games like that. And Nick Sirianni made a mistake. And the players actually talked about how once they clinched their wild card spot, or at least a playoff spot weeks ago, they were on kind of cruise control, and you could see it. Their minds weren't in it. And you don't want this negative momentum this week when you have to go into Tampa. And you're absolutely right. Remember, they played week 3 and they housed Tampa 25-11 on a Monday night, and they played great football. In fact, you could argue that was their best game of the season, probably the Miami game that Sunday night, week 7 at home. But the bottom line is they dominated on both sides of the football that week. They shut down Baker Mayfield, who, by the way, is playing with a ribs injury. He's not looked good the last 2 weeks. But the Eagles' defense is so bad for all right now, they can't even stop a college team. They're absolutely pathetic. And Matt Patricia, as I understand it, he's changed some of the defensive principles. They drop a lot of players into coverage. They don't rush the passer. They're not aggressive. The players seem confused, so there's lack of communication on defense. Right now, they're a bad football team. For the life of me, help me explain this. Why in the world would the Eagles be a 2.5-point favorite? As you said, and you were absolutely right. They beat them 3 months ago. It doesn't matter. They're a completely different team now. Why would the lines makers have the Eagles as a 2.5-point favorite next Monday night?
I haven't the foggiest idea. And I'll tell you what, Tampa's defense is tough. A shutout yesterday on the road, 9-zip. Baker with ribs, still got it done. And then go through the litany, the laundry list of injuries for the Eagles.
They've got a ton of them. Okay, Jalen Hurts will play with his dislocated finger. You saw him leave a little bit, come back, and then they pulled him because they were getting blown out. A.J. Brown has a right knee injury. As I understand it, there's optimism that he could play. They'll know later this week. They won't practice until Thursday. Sidney Brown, by the way, he tore his ACL. Their outstanding rookie out of Illinois. He's a third rounder, so obviously he's done. Reed Blankenship, one of the starting safeties, he's got a groin injury. It's more of a day-to-day injury. Gary Slay has not played in 5 weeks. He had knee surgery, he had a scope weeks ago. They believe they're going to have him back for this game. Cam Jurgens, their starting right guard, has an eye injury. He left the game, didn't return. So, yes, they're going to get an extra day for L to prepare for it because they don't play till next Monday night. But they're the banged-up team of the two. The Bucs are in really good health. They got Carlton Davis, their best cornerback from his concussion. This is not good. Yeah, sure. They're getting extra day to prepare and heal up, but you don't want to be going banged up into this playoff game. You know why, Ferrall, not only did the Eagles have the best roster last season, you want to know why they made the Super Bowl? All 22 starters started in week 1 at Detroit in 22. They started in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. That's how you get there. You stay healthy, and the Eagles are not a healthy team right now.
So what is the deal with Sirianni? They're blaming him and attacking him like he's doomed there. Is that even remotely true?
No, I don't believe he's in trouble, but they're going to have changes on defense after the season. Remember, they reassigned Sean Desai, their defensive coordinator. He's now really a senior defensive assistant. Patricia, see, what I'm told, Ferrall, is Patricia's changed some concepts on the defense. Players are confused. They're thinking out there. Talked to a Giants source who said that this defense is so different from the one that they looked at earlier in the season. Obviously, they faced them 2 weeks ago, where they also didn't play well, but the Eagles were able to win that game. So this is not good. They're in a bad way here. This is the first turmoil. I'm glad you brought him up, that Nick Sirianni's had, the head coach of the Eagles, since they were 2-5 in year 1, and it gave up the play calling to Shane Steichen, which turned out to be a great decision. He hasn't lost the team, but he can't quite figure it out. And by the way, one other thing before we move on here, their offense isn't very good either. They were terrible yesterday. They couldn't pick up the blitz from the Giants. See, people want to blame their defense all they can, and I get that. But Nick Sirianni's in charge of their offense, and the offense is not playing at a high enough level right now. They are in trouble next Monday night. Again, it absolutely positively should not be a favorite at the Bucs.
Adam, is Mike McCarthy at the number 2 seed in trouble if the Packers go to Jerry's World and beat their former coach?
Jerry Jones, and I know sometimes he said things for effect. He said they're going to go game to game here. That was it. Look, I know he talked to the local media, and he says some things sometimes that he doesn't really mean. He says for effect to put pressure on his coaches. I've talked to their coaches over the years. They kind of try to ignore what Jerry Jones says, but they're the number 2 seed. They didn't look great yesterday early on, and then they rolled, scoring 28 straight points. But if somehow they lose to the Packers, who have a horrific defense, their offense, Jordan Love, by the way, the most improved quarterback in the National Football League by far. He's phenomenal. They could score, but the problem is they won't be able to stop Dallas's offense and Dak Prescott. Now, I do believe, Ferrall, if they shocked the world and they lost, you got to start looking at Bill Belichick and other head coaches. It would not shock me if Jerry Jones, who's in his late 70s, moved on. Let's see what happens there. I don't see any way because the Packers defense is not very good, but we're not talking enough. Carver and I did earlier last week. Jordan Love is playing absolutely outstanding football. Here's the problem. I would if he would have played well like the first 5 or 6 weeks, I'd put him in my MVP running. In fact, my ballot for the Pro Football Writers Association is due on Wednesday, and I would have put Jordan Love on there, but he didn't play well early in the season. But no quarterback in the second half has played better than Packers Jordan Love.
So what is the status in Foxborough of Belichick? We already know Rivera's out. Is Josh Harris going to go after Belichick with all his guns blazing? Or is it going to be Jim Harbaugh? Is Vrabel the guy that would replace Belichick if he were let go, or is he just going to lose some power and stay on?
All right, this is complex. So a couple things that Belichick said to me. One was not surprising that he confirmed he's still time left on his contract. We all knew that. But one of the things you just mentioned, let me explain it. He has full personnel control. He makes every decision with coaches and personnel, signing, free agency, who starts, who plays, and all that. The fact that he actually said he'd be willing to do it in his own way was interesting. But what we have to understand is Robert Kraft was involved in Bill O'Brien being rehired. He wanted them to get a real offensive coordinator. That's my understanding. And it didn't work with O'Brien and Mac Jones. Mac Jones regressed. He got benched. This is where Belichick screwed up last year, having Matt Patricia, who never called the plays, never developed a quarterback, call the plays. That was a mistake. And that's what Robert Kraft wanted them to correct. Bill Belichick has not gotten the quarterback position right. Now, let's fast forward to Washington. I wrote for Pro Football Network this morning that Josh Harris is looking to make a big splash. Yes, he's hired our friend Rick Spielman as a consultant and Bob Myers, the former GM of the Warriors. They'll help him through the process. And Rick knows what's going to help their group out, their ownership group out is, so many coaches and front office people. But the bottom line is Josh Harris will spend money. He did it when he hired Doc Rivers away when other teams wanted him after he got fired from the Clippers. And by the way, here's the other thing here. It's not a super desirable job because they don't know who their quarterback is. Sam Howell did a nice job, but he hasn't shown he's definitely the guy. It's the Chargers job. That's the big one that a lot of teams are going to want because they've got a quarterback.
Yeah, I think Sam Howell is awful, and you won't see him playing quarterback for the Commanders or anybody else unless he's the third stringer.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division favorite.
I don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
The wife said we're getting the Stanley Cups, and now they got Stanley Cups in West Virginia.
Yep. They're doing $300 million gross a year in sales.
Listen, man, we don't need that much, man.
They're crushing
take
it.
A little piece of the Stanley Cup. I would drink from the Stanley Cup every day. I'll have inscribed on there. We'll get our BVB inscribed.
Yeah.
Stanley Cups.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back,
the irony.
I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Greg, do you agree with the idea that the odds makers are sharing by having the Pinstripes booked as the favorites to win the pennant in the American League?
The average person who doesn't bet on sports, at the Venetian, at Caesars, Mandalay Bay, they've never bet on anything before. They walk into a sports book, they know nothing about sports, but they look at the board, Ben, and they say, Yankees, I know who they are. That sounds like a fun bet.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
We'll look at the Heisman Trophy
The early
race
line.
and what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterbacks,
Ferrall
backup quarterbacks.
coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time decisions.
have no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
In-game live,
Just
prime
took 'em
time.
yard for a grand slam.
The bottom of the fourth inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports
That
Rage
was good
Late
betting.
Night.
We waited for 1.5. We got paid
We
consideration. Didn't like the 2.5. Jumped on
There's
it.
no taking weeks off in golf betting ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You know, this would be an ideal night to sign up for a BetMGM account if you don't have one. I think this would be the perfect night because, like, the Natty's going on and everything, right? Like, so you could, like, you know, go on iOS or Android Play Store, download the app, go to BetMGM.com, download it. You're good to go. And then, you know, sign up, put at least $10 in your account and get rolling. You can place your first wager. Let's say you bet $1,500 tonight on the Michigan-Washington game, and you get the bet wrong. Let's say you bet $1,500 and you lose the bet. They're going to give you $1,500 back immediately with bonus bets once the wager is settled. You heard me. So sign up, get an account, use the code SG1500, SportsGrid 1500, SG1500 as the code. And then make a bet. Whatever you bet, they're going to give you back in bonus bets up to $1,500. That is ridiculous. You're going to love it. Check it out at betmgm.com. All right. You got some props for tonight? Game props, player props?
Yeah, I got a lot to do before we get out of here. Let's go. The most bet player props for tonight. Everybody loves Blake Corum for Michigan, Scotty. First tutty, plus 275. Anytime tutty, minus 350. Over 104.5 rushing yards. Minus 115. There it is. All the Corum numbers for you there. I think Penix is going to go over his numbers too, Scotty. With him tonight, I think he's going to get 3 touchdown passes as well. So that's where we're at in the player prop department.
Yeah, and I think Corum can go over $1. I don't think Washington can stop the run or the pass. I thought Ewers threw the ball all over their face. I mean, like, he did whatever he wanted. I know they lost the game, but let's not forget how he brought him down to the 10-yard line. I don't know how they got in that position. They should have lost that game by 13 or more. Suddenly, they were playing to win. They were playing to win, and they didn't get it done. I don't like Washington's defense, so I think Corum does whatever he wants. Anytime tutty, over $1.04, I say they both hit. I agree with you on Penix. No one is stopping Penix from doing his thing tonight.
Most bet game props. These are props on the game. The most tickets are on these. Michigan to win by 7 to 12 points, plus 425. Washington to win and over 54.5, plus 350. Michigan to score over their team total, 30.5, minus 120. Washington's team total over 24.5, and Washington to score first at plus 105. Those are the most popular bets on the game prop board.
Well, I need that over 30 and a hook and over 24 and a hook. And I mean, I need over like 6 more on each of them. I mean, I need 36 to 40 and I need 25 to 30 to go over that 54 and a half. That's all I know. Or whatever, yep. 56 and a half. Excuse me, 56 and a half. I wish it was 54 and a half. 56 and a half. So I need bigger numbers than those game props that you just put up. Way more.
There you go. Of course, SportsGrid has you covered all night tonight, starting right after us, Scotty, at 6. You've got the College Football Today crew, Ben, Kevin, Lisi, all night long, except for halftime, when you get me and Scotty at halftime tonight on SportsGrid during the Michigan-Washington game. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully the game is already more than well. It's on its way to over, and Washington is winning. That will make everybody very happy. In the halftime show, that's for sure. All right, NBA tonight. Let's roll. First of all, I heard you say earlier you had the Clippers last night against the Lakers. Lakers won 106 to 103.
Yeah,
LeBron had 25. They snapped a 4-game streak. Raptors beat the Warriors. Grizz beat the Suns. Blazers beat the Nets in overtime. Nets have been awful. Draymond Green says that Adam Silver talked him out of retirement. Well, come on, Adam. Why'd you do that?
Yeah.
Why'd you have to talk about it?
Honestly, what a nice world we'd be living in if he actually went away. And then, but the problem would be is that he still has that deal, I believe, with Turner.
He ain't going anywhere. He ain't going
he'd
anywhere.
be right on with Barkley and Shaq.
In fact,
and meanwhile, Shaq, without a doubt, Shaq, it's clear to me over the last 3 years, Shaq wants to beat up Barkley. The fist fight.
Yeah,
he wants to beat his ass.
Maybe he is doing us a favor. He might be more painful when he retires because he's going to be on TV a lot more. So maybe Adam is doing us a favor in the long run when it comes to how painful he is. All right, let's go tonight. The Bulls are in Charlotte against the Hornets. Bulls minus 6.5. Imagine the Bulls being 6.5 point favorites on the road. 216.5 is the total.
Well, I mean, that just looks so easy that it's the Bulls minus 6.5. Because I bet on them, I think last week they played them in Chicago. I bet the Hornets cover the number tonight.
The Celtics are in Indiana against the Pacers. Celtics minus 3.5 here, 247.5, the big total.
So the Pacers beat the Bucks every time they play them, not the Celtics. Yeah. I still like Boston.
Yeah, the Pacers did get them in that tournament that week, but that was the only time the Pacers got them. Usually the Celtics take care of business against them. The Thunder continue their East Coast trip in Washington against the Wizards tonight. Wizards getting 11.5 at home, 246.5 the big total.
Listen, they are awful. I mean, the Knicks beat the snot out of them the other night. This is going to be Thunder rolling, going away.
The Knicks beat the hell out of them on the second night of a back-to-back. I mean, the Knicks played Friday night in Philly, a second night, and they still beat the hell out of them in that game. The Rockets are in Miami against the Heat. Heat minus 4.5, 219.5 the total.
I bet this game this morning, Heat minus 4, so it's a 4.5. I like the Heat at home here. I think they'll handle their business. Frankly, I was surprised it was only 4.
Jazz have been playing a little bit better recently. They're now 17-20, but they're in Milwaukee tonight against the Bucks. Bucks minus 8.5, 242.5 the total.
Well, I told you last week that the 14, they'd still get beat by 30 in Boston, and they did get beat by 30 in Boston. They're not winning in Milwaukee either. Remember, they only win in Salt Lake. That's when you bet on them, in Salt Lake. Teams go there to die, and they don't cover there, and they don't win there. But I don't like the Jazz at all anywhere else.
I don't like the Jazz at all anywhere else either. The Suns are in L.A. tonight against the Clippers. Suns getting 6.5, 233.5 is the total. I just wanted to check on Durant's status. Now probable for tonight, Scotty. So I know there was some question about him. Looks like Durant's going to go.
Well, you see their Clips by 7. They're automatic. I thought last night they were automatic laying 3.5. So I went rogue and bet the loser Suns, who I think stink. I took the Suns in 6.5 this morning against the Clippers, and it moved to 7. If you got 7, you might hit, and I'll lose by the hook.
How about that? There you go. Short night in the NBA, of course, with the college football game going on, but we still do have some action there. How about hockey?
Everybody loves hockey.
Everybody does love hockey. William Nylander, he loves Toronto, Scotty. 8 for 92 for William Nylander in Toronto. Man, how do they pay all these guys?
$11.5 million a year. Now, look, they knew that they couldn't let that guy get out of Toronto. Yeah. He had them handcuffed for big money. They were forced to give him $11.5 million per. But they got Austin Matthews and Nylander, and as far as I'm concerned, they are badass.
They are. They've also got 4 guys, I think, who take up like 60% of their cap now because you have 4 $10 million plus players with Marner, Tavares, Matthews, and Nylander. But they'll find a way, I guess. They won a round last year. Maybe they'll go further this year. I doubt it, though. The Blackhawks placed Connor Bedard on IR, fractured jaw. That was horrible. Now, I did not think that hit was dirty, Scotty, the other night in that Devil Blackhawk game. I think it was unfortunate for Bedard, but I don't think that it was a dirty hit that he got hit that broken jaw on.
Well, I think it's sad the kid broke his jaw. I think it sucks. And particularly with the fact that he just made the All-Star game in Toronto
He's gonna miss that
as
now.
an 18-year-old. That's crazy. Speaking of 18-year-olds, I just want to throw this out there. My kid Manenian, they won the gold, the U.S. World Juniors, and my son's friend is on that team, and we watched them get the gold medals and sing the anthem, and we saw him on TV. Couldn't be happier for the kid that he went from playing high school hockey in northern New Jersey to being in the Olympic program and going to school in Michigan and being with that team and being on that team and then winning a gold medal in the World Junior Championships is just badass.
Could be the start of a very big run for the United States in that tournament. They got a lot of good players over the next couple of years who are going to be eligible to play in that. All right, hockey tonight. Only 4 games for you, but some good ones. The Canucks are at the Garden against the Rangers. Both teams been very good this year. Rangers minus 145. Canucks plus $126.5 the total.
I think the Canucks are really good, but I like the Rangers at the Garden on home ice. I mean, the Rangers, at the end of the day, are clearly one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the NHL these days. They got a great goalie. I like them at home tonight.
Yeah, Canucks are on this trip here in the New York area. They're at the horse track tomorrow night, Scotty, against the Islanders. The Penguins and the Flyers, always fun when they get together. Tonight they are in for Philadelphia, and the Penguins, slight favorite on the road, minus 125. Flyers plus 105, flat 6 the total.
So the other night I watched them beat the Bruins in Boston. I almost keeled over. I couldn't believe they beat them 6-5. Then they turn around and puke on themselves and lose to the Sabres 3-1. That was embarrassing. But I bet them at minus $120 today to win in Philly. And the reason being is that Crosby in his career is like 390-0 against the Flyers.
Yes, he has a very good record against them. Dallas is in Minnesota, St. Paul against the Wild. Dallas minus 135, plus 115 for the Wild at home, 6.5 the total.
The Flower against your boy Wedgwood tonight. I bet it under 6 dangerously. Both these guys have a flat 3 goals against. I think it's going to be under. We'll see if I can get it right. The other day I bet one under. I was 2-1 in that Capital game, I think Friday night. It was 2-1 going to the third, and then they scored like 6 goals in the third. Carolina, I almost had a heart attack. I've already had one of those. Anyway, I'm going under in that game, Dallas and Minnie. I don't like a side. I like the under.
The game of the night is in Colorado. The Bruins and the Avalanche get together at Ball Arena. Avalanche minus 125. Bruins plus 105, flat 6 the total here.
I went danger. I took the Bruins at the Ball in the Mile High for the upset with the plus money.
There you go. Should be a fun one tonight. But you don't get the Bruins at that price very often, Scotty. Very rare you get the Bruins with a little plus sign in front of them. You might as well take a shot. All right, a couple things before we leave. Number one, baseball. Mets signed Sean Manaea, 2-year deal. He can opt out after 1. The Dodgers signed Teoscar Hernandez to a 1-year deal. I think it was about $25 million. That guy can rake, Scotty. Like, that's a guy who's going to get tucked. He's going to get tucked into like that 5 or 6 hole in the Dodger lineup. He's going to hit a ton of home runs for them. Watch that. Tiger Woods and Nike break up after 27 years together. Tiger.
That makes no sense to me whatsoever. Michael Jordan's fat and old now, and he's still got Nike clothes coming out his yin. Why wouldn't you keep Tiger Woods until he's in a casket?
Doesn't make sense unless somebody's giving Tiger a really big check. Who can write a bigger check than Nike? Captain Kirk won the Tournament of Champions. Are you kidding me? I thought I had it with Jordan Spieth down the back 9, Scotty, but no, Captain Kirk.
He got off the sauce and started winning.
South Dakota State won the FCS title. There you go. There's the rest of it for you. You can finish it up. When
Malachi Nelson going to Boise State.
Yes.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game
will be the division favorite. I don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
The wife said we're getting the Stanley Cups, and now they got Stanley Cups in West Virginia.
Yep. They're doing $300 million gross a year in sales.
Listen, man, we don't need that much, man.
They're crushing
take
it.
a little piece of the Stanley Cup. I would drink from the Stanley Cup every day. I'll have inscribed on there. We'll get our BVB inscribed.
Yeah.
Stanley Cups.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back,
the irony.
I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Greg, do you agree with the idea that the odds makers are sharing by having the Pinstripes booked as the favorites to win the pennant in the American League?
The average person who doesn't bet on sports, at the Venetian, at Caesars, Mandalay Bay, they've never bet on anything before. They walk into a sports book. They know nothing about sports, but they look at the board, Ben, and they say, Yankees. I know who they are. That sounds like a fun bet.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network.
We'll look at the Heisman Trophy
The early
race
line.
and what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterback,
Ferrall
backup quarterback.
coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time
I have
decisions.
no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
In-game live.
Just
Prime
took 'em
time.
yard for a grand slam.
In the bottom of the fourth inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports
That
Rage
was
late
good betting.
night.
We waited for 1.5. We got paid.
We did.
Did like the 2.5. Jumped on.
There's no taking weeks off in golf betting ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, for all the finish time, great job, Jack. Be nimble. Luke, I am your father. And, of course, our boy Coffee Kofsky. A professional women's hockey league game in Minnesota. The XL sets an attendance record around 14,000. Good for them. Rafa pulls out of the Aussie drag. Kurt Menefee of Fox NFL Sunday joining Good Day New York as a co-host. So they got Stray on Good Morning America, Menefee on Good Day New York, but that's local. And they got Burleson on with Gale in the mornings. I mean, what they're really doing is they're going to change the Fox NFL set, and they're going to change that CBS NFL set. Next year, you'll see big changes on both of them. That's what that means. David Soul dies at 80. You know who that was? He was the badass that all the chicks wanted to sleep with from Starsky and Hutch. Remember Carver High with the red car with the stripe? I think your dad worked on that car at one point or another. That car, the Torino, was badass. David Soul was the blonde, by the way. More cocaine washed up on Australian beaches, including an 85-pound haul. Can you imagine being at the beach, laying out at your towel, something hits you in the feet from the shoreline, and it's 85 keys of blow, and there's no cops anywhere? What would you do? I would sell it, as Carver High knows. We would start an operation in and around Australia and other countries, and we'd all end up in prisons in Belgium. Mentally ill man arrested after diving naked into the aquarium at the Bass Pro Shops. My man had Turtle D going. Everybody was making fun of him because no one could see his package, actually. That's how small it was in the tub. But he scared a bunch of women and children, so he's going to jail. The Blade Runner got out of prison in South Africa. Oscar Pistorius. We talked about this guy over the weekend on In-Game Live All Access. All I know is his girlfriend was smoking hot, and he killed her. I mean, what are you doing, bro, shooting that hottie? I mean, honestly, that guy deserved 40 years. A woman lured by a man's romance and gifts forced into disturbing prostitution hustle. That sounds like a movie to me. GTD is next. We'll be on at halftime of the Natty. Carver High and I go to FerrallOnTheBench.com for all the action because Jake's naked.